My name is John Crichton.
My name is John Crichton. My name is John Crichton. Look upward and share the wonders I've seen.
It's not working. It's not helping. Talon's dying, not waking up.
Astro.
Work now, freak later. Work now.
Yes, that's fair.
Good.
How much later?
Hello, and welcome to episode number 12 of the ScapeCast, your guide to the wonders of Farscape and the 2006 winner of the Parsec Award for Best Fan Podcast. Woohoo! I'm your co-host, Kevin Batchelder.
And I'm Lindy Ray. On this episode of the ScapeCast, we're going to have
the Stark character review, which covers seasons 1 and 2.
An interview with Jackie Tenur from Stolen Life.
And the article Aliens, Wormholes, and Muppets, Oh My.
Oh my. He'll have all her regular features like trivia, news, and the question of the week.
And this show's spoiler level is...
Season 4.
Hey, Lindy, as I normally do before each show, now that I'm back, I took a look at our Frapper map, and it's great that we keep getting more and more folks on there. Got a couple of new countries chiming in for the first time in just the last couple of weeks. Listeners in now France and Switzerland.
You know, that person in France actually might be a friend of mine, so I'm just going to say hi, Mickey, just in case it is, and send more chocolate, please.
And we also want to mention, too, that our last episode that you all listened to was the first time that we had our audio editor, Sammy Moore, produce an entire episode on her own. Up till now, Brent Barrett has been really carrying that quite a bit with Sammy's help, so it's great to see a few folks involved there, because the audio editors really deserve a tip of the cap. That's a lot of time and effort they put into that, so we really want to thank them for a great job.
Oh, definitely, because I know without Brent and Sammy, we wouldn't sound as good as we do. So, yes, thank you very much. We bow to you now.
We also want to be sure and thank, since Lindy and I haven't been together on the show for a couple of weeks now, a big thank you also to Kim for sitting in for each of us in the last couple of episodes.
Yeah, she did a great job. Thanks, Kim.
She really did. Thanks, Kim.
Yeah. So, Kevin, how was Dragon Con in the podcasting track?
Oh, it was awesome. I'm a big fan of Dragon Con. That's a great con every year. I mean, a nice, big, 35,000 plus attendees covering all kinds of sci-fi and similar topics. And this year adding the podcasting track, I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, from 10 in the morning till past midnight every day, there were great sessions to go to and everything else. It was just a lot of fun, and it was great to run into some other scapers and some listeners of ours and getting to meet Kurt face-to-face for the first time and a bunch of other podcasters that I've listened to. I mean, that's just a ton of fun. I love that every year.
It's fun to put the face and the voice together. Yeah. Did anyone come up to you and say, boy, your voice sounds familiar?
Well, actually, there were two occasions where I was at, one time actually at one of the bars. And maybe once during the con I went there. And one other time at a session where I had somebody from behind me tap me on the shoulder and go, I recognize that voice. You're Kevin. So, I mean, it's great to run into the listeners and other folks who really enjoy the shows there. It is kind of neat. And a little weird, I must say, when I'm the one usually gawking at the celebrities and what have you, and there's folks going, I know you. And no, I'm looking going, no, I don't know you, but go ahead and tell me.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Well, I have to tell you that one of the things that we did learn since Kevin's been back from Dragon Con, this is a little piece of trivia about Kevin and Lindy Ray. We both have dogs named Annie.
Yeah, we discovered that doing some of our recordings, saying we had to quiet our dogs and realized we both call them by the same name, so that was a little weird.
Kevin, why are you yelling at my dog?
And now, this episode's word, brought to you by Truk Talk.
Hey, Ema, what you doing?
Sword fighting. I'm getting pretty good at it, too. It's really drad.
It is really bad? Then why do you do it?
No, drad. Sword fighting is drad.
It makes you mad? I don't understand.
No. Drad. Drad means cool or wild. Like your hair looks really drad today.
And that means it is nice?
Yep. Or Mr. Hoople's bald head is the draddest.
Or Orville's trash can is drad.
You really think so? I don't think so. Orville's trash can is smelly and noisy and...
No, I was just trying out the word. How about... Nookie Marsh's cookies are drad.
Yeah, they are. You want to learn how to sword fight? We could be the Dread Pirate E and Zoe Zusu, terror of the uncharted territories.
Now that would be really drad.
Arr! Arr!
That was the draddest Truk Talk yet.
Yeah, that was cool. I appreciate that one very much. That's a good one. I just love hearing all the different words covered here by the entire Trolk Talk crew themselves.
It's time for your Farscape trivia question. Can you name the two actors who appeared as both major Farscape recurring characters and characters in the Matrix series of movies? Here's a hint.
Of course. He has been expecting you. Follow me.
Perhaps we're asking the wrong questions.
Do you know what characters they played? Check back later in the show for the answer. For the ScapeCast, I'm Brent Barrett.
This is Got Leviathan from the ScapeCast forum. What is Farscape? Farscape is a crew of alien characters that clash and crash their way across a Technicolor special effects screen. In the first 10 minutes, we are grabbed by the throat with how alien and breathtakingly beautiful they are. They're alien in culture, not just in appearance and costume. And as soon as we accept their strange appearance, we begin to notice how similar they are to us. They have our strengths and our weaknesses. The series moves back and forth between the alien and the familiar. The crew becomes a family to each other, and we feel that we're part of it. To paraphrase one of them, if you are deployed with them long enough, they become your squad. You watch their back, and they cover yours. It's as simple as that. You see, we care about these characters. We care about them more than we cared about James T. Kirk, Jean-Luc, or Adama. They are achingly beautiful and familiar. Farscape is about connection and relationships, more than stuntmen and the special effect of the week. Of course they're aliens. Yes, there are great costumes. There are great special effects and pyrotechnics. They're there, they're huge. It is movie-quality production, brought to a weekly TV series. It's an action drama, after all, not just soap opera in space. But that isn't Farscape. Farscape is Canterbury Tales and the Seven Samurai. It is a classic character drama, painted onto a new sci-fi computer-generated canvas. It succeeded with its fans, and it failed with its business owners. What is Farscape? Farscape is dead. Farscape is a family of characters we cared about and missed deeply. Long live Farscape.
Our next segment is called My Side, Your Side. Now guess who that one's about? Naturally, it's Stark. And it's written by Julie Marino, also known as Jersey Girl.
This is my side. That's your side. This is my side. You stay on your side. My side, your side. My side, your side. My side, your side.
The situation was about as dire as it could get. John had been captured by a really evil, creepy-looking bad guy, subjected to torturous interrogation, and tossed into a cell on a peacekeeper military base. He was alone, completely at the mercy of his enemies, with no way out. And if we weren't yet convinced of how desperate his plight was, here was this lunatic looming out of the shadows, raving, incoherent, terrifying John even more than he already was, if that was possible. In his very first appearance, in the darkest episode so far, and one of the darkest in the entire series, Stark managed to simultaneously inject notes of utter despair and screwball humor. What a perfect Farscape moment. It was hard to know what to make of him. His very strangeness served to reinforce John's sense of despair and fear. He wasn't a real character, he was a cautionary tale, as if to say, this is what will happen to you soon enough. But it wasn't long before the layers started to peel away, and we began to discover Stark as a person in his own right. We discovered he wasn't crazy, or at least not as crazy as he made the peacekeepers believe he was. In fact, Stark tells us much more about himself than we realize at first. In the episode that also introduces Scorpius, one of the most memorable characters you're ever likely to meet, Stark manages to make his own indelible impression. This is no small feat. Scorpy casts a long shadow. He's ruthless, physically intimidating, feared even by peacekeepers. But Stark is at home in the shadows, literally and figuratively. Long used to being enslaved and abused, he's like a small prey animal, always on the lookout for predators. He's developed keen survival strategies. He knows how to hide, even if it's within himself. He's a survivor. It doesn't take John long to realize that Stark is no threat. He might even possibly be an ally. In their conversation, Stark is rational, intelligent, even candid. revealing secrets about himself that he has long withheld from the peacekeepers.
How long have you been here?
2 cycles. Peacekeepers killed most of my people, but they kept me alive because I interest them. I'm able to hide thoughts that their chair can't touch. It's almost ironic. What made me a slave now keeps me alive. I'm of the Bannock slave race. Outsiders think that we do not feel, but it's only that our feelings don't always show. Just as this can hide our feelings, we're also able to cloud thoughts from our minds. What I know deep inside, the peacekeepers will never see.
When John is suffering from the effects of the Aurora chair, Stark gently cares for him, using his healing power to ease John's pain.
What is that? What did you just show me?
I'm able to give a few thoughts, that's all. Rest, my friend.
It's only natural that when John is rescued, Stark would come too. All prisoners of the peacekeepers are kindred souls. But before we have a chance to really take stock of him, Stark is gone, and who knows if we'll ever see him again. But Stark is too good a character to let go. When he does reappear toward the end of Season 2 in the Locket, we learn that after leaving the Gammak base, he had borrowed a transport pod from Moya. Now he's returned with important news, which we'll learn in due time. This Stark is a far cry from the nutcase we first met on the Gammak base. He's calm and quiet, the embodiment of reason and intellect. With his knowledge of time anomalies and his deep spiritual abilities, Stark comes up with a plan when the stellar mist threatens to trap Moya and her crew forever. He combines his power with Zahn's to help them break free. It is he who guides her and serves as a spiritual anchor. So now we think we're getting a handle on Stark. The crazy bit was all just an act. He's really a very evolved being. But the more we learn, the less we really know. In The Ugly Truth, there are hints that he might just be the tiniest bit unhinged. As we see the same scene play out over and over through different people's eyes, we see Stark display anger, anxiety, even panic. Is it truly him, or just someone else's impression of him? We don't know. In the end, his spiritual side reemerges. Believing he may be able to reconstitute later, he sacrifices himself to spare the others. We also see how he has begun to touch the others in the crew. Dargo feels remorse at having distrusted him, and worries about having become cold and cynical. Zahn grieves for him. He has clearly become her soulmate. And the rest of us, well, we're just confused. Stark is a walking enigma. And again, he's gone, and we don't know when or if we'll see him again. This time it doesn't take him so long to make another appearance. When he returns again in Liars, Guns, and Money, Stark displays a whole new, surprising range of talents. He's a thief, having stolen plans to the Shadow Depository. He's a techie, hacking into the security system and encrypting the comms. And he's a mastermind, concocting a plan to save Jothi. But his plan is weak at best, and the stress of the whole situation makes him, well, unstable. Everyone's holding their breath to see if he makes it through without completely losing it. And as we watch him try and put his ill-conceived plan in motion, we see another new and disturbing side of Stark. Cynical, manipulative, even nasty. This doesn't fit with anything we know about him. He may be unreliable, erratic, unpredictable, but the Stark we know has never borne ill will toward his companions. Unlike the others on Moya, whose changes make sense to us because we see and understand the causes, Stark is often absent, and we don't know what happens to him when he's gone. Where is he? Who is he with? Is he picking up more than knowledge and information from those he helps to cross over? Perhaps he inherits their characteristics, their quirks, their faults. Again, we just don't know. By the end of Season 2, the most predictable thing about Stark is that he's totally unpredictable. We never know what to expect. Is he going to be crazy this time? Wise, gentle, sarcastic, silly, dangerous? We've learned that he's capable of all those states and a few more. And he flits from one to the next without warning, which can make living with him extremely trying for everyone. Well, what can you do? Everyone on Moya is either a castaway or a runaway or a fugitive. Nobody is anyone's idea of a perfect roommate, except John and Aaron, on their good days anyway. Stark is like the flaky friend who tries everyone's patience, But you keep him around because sometimes he's good company, and sometimes he's helpful. And when he's a pain in the butt, you scream and you yell, but you deal with it. And who knows? Someday he may actually make you glad you decided to keep him around. This is Hank Schiffman for the ScapeCast.
You know, listening to that article again reminds me, I think it was 1 or 2 shows back, we had someone commenting about how they use the Farscape words. And I got such a kick out of hearing the one who talked about how they use the my side, your side to complain about bad drivers on the road.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was such a
Yeah.
perfect one now. It's got me thinking that every time I see someone trying to cross the line or getting too close to the curb. So
And
that's
that happens a lot there in Boston, doesn't it?
Oh, we won't even go there.
Okay.
Driving on the curb is allowed in the Boston area, so.
Oy, okay.
This is Kurt Armbruster with the news. There are even more costumes on eBay, including John Quixote's armor, several pieces from Dargo's costume, and Grace's bodysuit. Just how big is that wardrobe anyways? With all these Farscape costumes getting released nearly every other week on eBay, don't be surprised if Dargo shows up on your doorstep with the Legion of Scarens and Peacekeepers this Halloween. Television Without Pity has been busy posting over a dozen reviews in the last several weeks, including Kansas, Dimey Dichotomy, Premier, and PK Tech Girl. Scapers, let's head over, read those reviews, and show them our Scaper love. The Starburst DVD set number 4.3 will be released on October 10th. What better way is there to spend your Columbus Day or Canadian Thanksgiving holiday than to wait in line at your favorite DVD shop and be among the first to pick up the final DVD set in the Starburst series? Features in Starburst 4.3 will include a behind-the-scenes interview with Anthony Simcoe, a short video of David Kemper's wrap-up speech from the set of the very last day of filming, a new commentary for the finale, Bad Timing, with Ben Browder, Claudia Black, and executive producer David Kemper. The Jim Henson Fantasy Film Collection has been released on DVD. The 3-movie feature includes Mirror Mask, written by Hugo Award-winning writer Neil Gaiman, The Dark Crystal, with all those fine puppets, and Labyrinth, featuring David Bowie. In addition to the 3 films, the set offers a 16-page Tokyo Pop manga book. Last Train to Frio is now screening in Australia. You can find a link to the trailer in our show notes. In other Last Train to Frio news, patrons at the Melbourne International Film Festival voted Last Train to Frio the most popular Australian film. Gigi Edgley was recently interviewed at the Courier Mail newspaper about her role in the Last Train to Frio, her previous works including Farscape, and she mentions her next feature, The Omega Seed, which was filmed in St. Louis. The ScapeCast wishes a happy birthday to Kent McCord on September 26th. And now the con report. On October 6th to October 8th, VCon in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, will host a Farscape fan table and Farscape fan panels, including our very own Nicola Wood. And of course, the official Farscape convention hosted by Creation Entertainment will be in Burbank, California from November 3rd to the 5th, 2006. Guests include Ben Browder, Gigi Edgley, David Lou Elsey, Paul Goddard, Rayleigh Hill, Kent McCord, Wayne Pygram, Signal Room, and Anthony Simcoe. We hope to see you there. You can find links to all of the convention and news in our show notes. And that's the news. For the ScapeCast, I'm Kurt Armbruster.
Lindy, one of the items Kurt mentioned there is, as we all know, that final Starburst edition is due to come out in just a few weeks now. They're in early October. And as we've discussed on some of the previous shows, I've been trying to get my hands on all those Starbursts since the copies I have of Farscape are borrowed there from my friend Dan. So I finally got a chance to order them. I went the ADV big sale they had over Labor Day where they had the discounts on the older version of the Starburst. I jumped in to grab those and ordered, I think, 8 or 9 of them. So I'm sitting on pins and needles waiting for those to come through.
Yeah, totally. And I always figure it bodes well for our favorite show when you have to go into a second printing. Do they call it printing when it's a DVD? Or
pressing, maybe. There you
go. When they have to go into a second pressing because of the huge customer demand.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ed Uthman sent us an email and said, I began listening to the ScapeCast a few weeks ago and I'm now on episode 4. I really appreciate all the time, talent, and effort you have put into producing such a comprehensive and professionally done show. I had an on-again, off-again relationship with Farscape during its run on the Sci-Fi channel. While I liked all of the characters, between all of the mumbling and heavy accents and the sheer lack of any exposition, I always had a hard time following what was going on. Now that you have provided such insight into the episodes and characters, I have resolved to go through all of the DVDs and watch every episode in order. Thank you so much for making this a manageable task. Best regards, Ed.
Now, I don't know about you, Lindy, but that's a really cool email to get. I thought that was a lot of fun to hear that one. It's nice. We all know the show and the message boards can bring in new fans to the show, but it's great to think that just the podcast was able to be a driving force in helping Ed come back into the show. That was very cool.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we were able to help you, Ed, and keep up the good work. I find it interesting, though, that he thought that they had heavy accents. But, you know, if you're just coming in the middle, it can be pretty confusing. I think it was pretty confusing if you come from the beginning.
Hey, this is the boy, and you're listening to my mom, Lindy, and the ScapeCast, your guide to the wonders of Farscape. Have fun.
While Kevin was at Dragon Con, he had the chance to interview Jackie Tenor, the director of Stolen Life, which is a new Machinima animated film that features the voice of Claudia Black. So here's Kevin.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. This is Kevin, and I'm actually at Dragon Con in Atlanta, and we're sitting here with Jackie Tenor, who is the director and co-producer of the film Stolen Life with Claudia Black's involvement. So that's why we're going to find out some more information. So welcome to the ScapeCast.
Thank you.
So where do you want to begin? Maybe you can start by telling us a little bit about what this is for those folks who may not be aware.
Okay, this is an animated feature film. It's done in a very new kind of way of making low-budget 3D animation called Machinima, which is a word that combines machine and cinema. And there's been a lot of short films done this way. Machinima basically comes from what it is it's using a game engine to create animation. And for a long time, gamers have been able to customize sets, customize their characters, and record their games. And it didn't take long for them to figure out that they could post-sync dialogue and make their own films, be it a version of the game that was their own version, or to actually make something completely new. So we're making a future noir, a sci-fi noir film about an independent investigator who's checking out what's happened on an asteroid in the future. And Claudia Black is the voice of our femme fatale.
And now, how did you folks come across her or have her involvement? Maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
I've actually known Claudia. I haven't watched a lot of Farscape, but I know Farscape very well because the post-production house I worked for in Sydney did the first series of Farscape and designed the whole look and feel. So I was very well aware of her and saw her and knew all about her and had about 10 animators who were madly in love with her. So she was somebody that was definitely on the radar. Peter Rasmussen, my co-producer and the writer and creator of Stolen Life, initially contacted me because he wanted me to script edit, and we'd worked together on various projects before. And when I read the script, I fell in love with it, and I'd been doing some voice directing work, and he was the one who said, I've got this idea of matching Chris Jones from the Tex Murphy series of games, and he's from Salt Lake City, with Claudia Black as the leading lady. And we talked about Claudia, and obviously it was strategic in that there are a lot of fans out there who love her work, but it was mainly because we felt that the character of Kiru, who's the femme fatale in our film, who is a robot, but she's an incredibly smart, she's the leader of all the bots on this asteroid. She's a great leader. She's very smart, she's compassionate, she's warm, but she's also incredibly sexy and strong, and we needed someone who could have a lot of witty banter with our detective, hard-boiled detective guy in true noir fashion. So we felt that Claudia would be the perfect person to kind of combine strength with femininity and a bit of sexiness thrown in as well.
Now, maybe talk a little bit, a lot of folks maybe are aware that animation is done a little differently in terms of when the animation part is done and when the voice comes in. Maybe talk a little bit about how that is different than what folks normally see in a traditional film.
Yep, I've been working in animation for a while, and one of the things that I love about it is how much emphasis is on the voice performance. So what you do is you write the script, and then you record all the voice first, and then you build the animation around the script. And often you have to go back and do pickups because things that happen in the animation have then changed the way the dialogue's working or the story's working. But you start with the voice, and the animators work to that voice. And in this case, the animator, because it's only one person, but this is a very small production. But, so we write it, we record it, and then we animate it.
You can talk a little bit, if you would, too, Jackie, about the difference when some folks think animation, they have their own idea of what it is, but this is a different process completely. Maybe touch on that a little bit, please.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things. This is when we say animation, people immediately think of Warner Brothers, which is 2D animation, and this, for the first part, is 3D animation, which is more like your Pixar, Toy Story, that kind of thing. But what Machinima is, because it's done in a game engine and because it's all in real time, and what you're basically doing is you're creating a virtual set that you can walk around and look at the camera angles and decide how you're going to shoot it. So by its nature, it has to be lower res. The other thing is just because it's a team of 5 people making this feature film, we don't have the kind of hardware. We don't want to be rendering huge files. We also want to try and make it in our lifetime. So we have to keep it kind of small. So it's 3D animation, but it's not 3D animation like Pixar or ILM or any of the big Monsters, Inc. We knew that there was no way we could compete with a studio like that with thousands of people and millions of dollars. So the actual aesthetic of the animation is much more low-res, much more like a game. Although, I mean, there are many games that are right up there and look cinematic, but the graphics quality is much lower. But we decided to kind of make that an aesthetic choice. So we lit for that and we designed for that, and then we went completely feature film quality on the voices, the characters, the voice direction, the quality of the actors, the music. We've got a fantastic composer from New York called Philip Johnston who now lives in Sydney, and the sound design is incredibly complex. So it doesn't look, it's certainly not that kind of high-res 3D quality, but it's got its own kind of aesthetic which is very different and suits what we're doing, which is something much more grassroots.
That sounds fantastic. I mean, much like the podcast is, where we have an easy way to do something we're enjoying, it sounds like you folks are able to get into much higher quality due to some technology advances, but to the end user or to the person who's actually going to be able to enjoy it, it's an easy way to get in there, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that we realised early on is that it doesn't matter how great something looks if the story sucks, and the performances are terrible. We don't care. So we spent over a year just fine-tuning the script, and then we really spent a lot of time with our actors. We spent 3.5 days with Claudia and the other Australian actors, and then I went to Salt Lake City and spent another 3 days with Chris Jones, the lead male actor. So we really took our time. We've just done some more pickups of their voices. So we're in sound post-production now, and where music's being composed as we speak. And I came to Dragon Con with a little 6-minute clip of scenes that have been completed, so that's what I showed last night.
Yeah, you were able to show that at the Southeast Scapers had a get-together, and you were showing it there. Maybe you could talk about feedback or the thoughts from the folks who were there.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, the thing that I really wanted to do was to come and see the fans, and that was definitely my experience last night. It was a small group of people, but they were so dedicated and so supportive of anything that Claudia does, and I just got such a kick out of the enthusiasm. And they were also really open to something that, it doesn't even feature Claudia's face, it's just her voice, but I think they appreciated the kind of quality of the emotion and the resonance in her voice. Her character has a huge character arc. Lots of really bad things happen to her in this movie, and she has to deal with lots of adversity, and I think that even in the little short sample I gave, they could tell that there was going to be some great performance coming out of Claudia. So they were very supportive. And then afterwards we went to the bar, and I think 4 of them were actually playing out scenes from Farscape word for word, and I just realised, my God, these people really know her work.
Yeah, that's the problem when you get us scapers together like that. You're likely to get a situation like that again. But much like with your work, it's the passion of enjoying what we're doing there. What are the plans as far as the release and how it will be released?
Well, as you were saying about the technology, I mean, one of the things that's fantastic is that we have been able to do this on a very, very low budget. I mean, we haven't paid ourselves, but we've been able to pay deferred fees or, low fees, and it's more that the technology has allowed us to actually do this in our own studio. And edit it in Premiere and get it out there. So the plans are, it's been invited to the Machinima Film Festival in New York, but we're also submitting it to Sundance because last year Sundance did a whole panel on Machinima, and that's when I knew that Machinima, which has been around for probably 5 or 6 years, is finally on the radar. And the Machinima.com website has, hundreds of films on there, and even something like Second Life has a whole Machinima club and a Machinima section now with people making films in Second Life. So it's a huge movement. So we're going to apply to Sundance. Depending on what happens there, we'll play there and the Machinima Film Festival in New York and any other festivals. But then we plan to... Peter made another film, excuse me, that he distributed through Hugh Hancock's company, and Hugh Hancock founded Machinima.com. So we'll talk to Hugh and we'll talk to any other distributors who are interested, but it will be, at the very least, available through our website on DVD.
Maybe you can talk now a little bit about what your influences were in terms of what happened before this and why you folks came to be doing this.
Peter and I, Peter Rasmussen, my co-creator and co-producer, both have always had a love of sci-fi. And I've also had a love affair with animation. My first degree was in Sydney, was in 3D animation. And I actually came to the States and was here for 7 years and initially was hoping to work for Pixar or ILM, and I ended up going to San Francisco State University and falling in love with a screenwriting class and writing and directing and doing more live action. But I always had 3D animation in my kind of blood. And when I moved back, I was here for 9 years, and then when I moved back to Sydney, I got a job working with the company that was doing Farscape, but I was actually producing some kids' 3D animated games. One was an adaptation of a very well-known Australian TV kids show called Bananas in Pyjamas, which anyone who has kids may well know. And then we moved on to do our own proprietary game that was a kids' first quest-based adventure game, and that was an adaptation of The Wizard of Oz. And that did really well. That got distributed to 18 countries and translated into 7 languages. So I was working with 3D, and then I was also writing for kids' animated TV, which is 2D, writing and story producing for some animated TV series, one of which is out now in Sydney, which is, again, an adaptation of a kids' series of books. So I've been kind of writing and directing animation for a while, but also working on my own features, and Peter's been writing his Machinima features, looking for a director, and it kind of just made sense when we finally met that we worked together.
After this film comes out, do you have other things already in the works? Maybe talk a little bit about what you see for the future for you guys.
Yeah, we actually have a film that's very close to my heart called Bots, which is kind of a Toy Story in space animated 3D animated film for kids. And that was a film that we got funding to develop the script, and then we went and talked to the big studios and some of the producers in Sydney about doing a much higher budget. This was kind of pre-Machinima, so we were trying to get that off the ground. And ironically, all the film producers said, look, I could produce a film, but I don't know 3D animation. And all the 3D animation producers said, look, I've done TV and ads, but I don't know how to do a film. So we put that on hold. But I think what I'm hoping, and Peter's hoping, is that with the success of Stolen Life, that we might revisit that script, because it's something we've worked on for a long time, and I think the time might be right. And now that Machinima also is that you're able to do things that are much higher res as well, just because of the technology, that we could actually do that film ourselves, maybe with a little bit more of a budget this time.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today, Jackie. It was very enjoyable, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And if you want to hear more about Stolen Life, you can go to the website, which is www.nanoflix, nanoflix.net. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, she was really great to talk with, Lindy. That was a lot of fun. She was very nice and very accommodating. You know, Kurt and I saw her around the Southeast Scapers fan table there at Dragon Con, and we set up a time to sit down and talk to her. And as you could tell from the interview, she had a lot of great information, and it was great to see the advances in some of these animated options that folks can sit down and get a film made with some well-known folks like Claudia, but also don't have to be a big Hollywood studio to put out a film. So it's great to see some content develop that way.
Yes, technology and the internet, it's that great leveler again.
Yep, Jackie said she'd keep us posted as things get ready to get released and all, so we'll certainly be sharing that with the listeners as well.
So the long drive to work is getting you down? Do you feel like the other drivers want to run you off the road and beat you with the tire iron of life? Relax. Take a break. and let Michael and Evo ease your drive time woes. Slice of Sci-Fi. It's not as good as having a stormtrooper on your hood, but it's close.
SliceofSciFi.com.
Hi everyone, I'm Ellen Dubin and you're listening to the ScapeCast, your guide to the wonders of Farscape. Please stay tuned and check me out on a new series called The Collector, about a man who collects souls for the devil. Ooh.
Our next segment is called Aliens, Wormholes, and Muppets, Oh My, by Tricia Ennis, who's also known as 45 Caliber Kiss on the forums.
Lions and tigers and bears, oh my!
My name is John Crichton, an astronaut. 3 years ago, I got shot through a wormhole. I'm in a distant part of the universe, aboard this living ship of escaped prisoners, my friends. I've made enemies, powerful, dangerous. Now all I want is to find a way home, to warn Earth. Look upward and share the wonders I've seen.
So began the 88th and final episode of the breakthrough science fiction series Farscape. By the end of the episode, millions of fans would sit stunned as hero John Crichton and his love, Henson, were crystallized and blasted into a million pieces. They would be still more shocked when the words "to be continued" appeared just before the screen would fade to black one last time. For what would be the first and final time in the show's history, the credits ran silent. The call came on September 6, 2002. Producer Brian Henson had spent the last several days meeting with executives from the Sci-Fi Channel attempting to negotiate the show's contract, but in the end the cost of production won out. It cost nearly $2 million per episode, and the network pulled the plug. What began as the final day of shooting for the 4th season ended in one final goodbye from producer David Kemper. The cast and crew alike struggled to keep their composure as each realized that Farscape was no more. That night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, David Kemper and Ricky Manning, along with series star Ben Browder, entered a chat room on the Sci-Fi Channel website to break the news to the fan community, never expecting the response they received. By 4 o'clock the next morning, the Save Farscape website was up, and the largest fan campaign in television history had begun. For the next year, fans did everything they could to save the beloved show. They set up tables at conventions selling t-shirts, bumper stickers, keychains, and buttons, held free screenings of episodes on college campuses, even ran magazine ads and 2 short I Am Farscape campaign commercials. The campaign made its way onto CNN 2 nights in a row, and in December of 2003, just 14 months after its cancellation, Farscape was back. Certain undisclosed businesses approached the Jim Henson Company, offering to fund the production of a 4-hour miniseries to continue the open-ended story, and the finished product was aired on the Sci-Fi Channel in October of the following year. Ever since, people have wondered about and debated the reasons for the epic campaign, asking, what about this show makes fans so loyal to it? From my research, it is not one thing, but rather a combination of several, including the innovative and provocative storylines, the world-class acting, and even its humorous way of throwing sex and taboo into the mix that make Farscape a space opera for the ages. On March 19, 1999, the Sci-Fi Channel aired the first episode of their new flagship series, appropriately titled Premiere. In it, the new audience met the first 5 main characters of the show and were introduced to a bit of what it was all about. John Crichton, the American astronaut and general hero of the show, starts out in a very non-science fiction hero way, confused and afraid. His fear, of course, was well warranted, as he had just been sucked through a wormhole while on a test run of a craft he designed, and shot out into the middle of a firefight between crafts he had never even conceived, let alone encountered. To make matters worse, he was quickly entangled in the docking web, a tractor beam of sorts, of the nearest vessel, and trapped on board a ship filled with escaping prisoners, none of which looked even remotely human, and all of which did not seem to have any problem using force to get what they wanted. These prisoners were the beautiful Pa'uzotozan, a sentient plant life form who had been studying to be a priestess before her arrest. Did I mention she was blue? The aggressive and quick-tempered Ka Dargo, a warrior with tentacles on his face and a past that would make most humans insane, and the amphibious Dominar Rigel XVI, the deposed ruler of over 6 billion subjects. John soon discovered, however, that he was not the only one taken against his will and trapped on board the escaping vessel. One of the soldiers attempting to recapture the ship was detained as well, a Sebacean, a humanoid alien with some subtle differences, by the name of Henson. Throughout the first episode, fans watched as John and Aaron attempted to escape their captors, only to discover that the opposing army, the Peacekeepers, a Nazi-like race, are the real bad guys. Before they knew it, John had been accused of killing an officer who was involved in a collision with his craft, and Aaron was declared irreversibly contaminated, a fate punishable by death, for spending time with John. Their eventual escape and reunion with the rest of the renegades started them on their way to a very dysfunctional friendship, and over the course of time, a close-knit family. Farscape continued throughout the first season to surprise its audience, taking risks with the stories, and not allowing you to assume anything. As one fan put it was never predictable. If you thought it would take a right turn, it would go left. Its writers weren't afraid to make their hero look like a fool, or make its viewers think that at times he was a complete idiot. They were also unafraid to make their fans disagree with the actions of any one character, including and especially the most popular. John Crichton had to struggle to fit in with his new crewmates. He wasn't the perfect all-American hero, and he certainly didn't immediately understand and adapt to the cultures around him. The uncharted territories where a large part of Farscape took place has been compared to the Wild West. Lawlessness and violence abound. But Crichton is no Shane coming to the rescue, and he certainly is not the Lone Ranger, riding in on his white steed to right wrongs and save the day. Crichton is lucky just to stay alive, and he depends on his companions for his day-to-day survival. Companions who consider him, at best, an annoyance, and at worst, a liability. Crichton is the hero who defies expectations, and even then, not in a predictable way. One thing is for sure, this isn't your daddy's science fiction. For the ScapeCast, I'm Kimberly Thompson.
This is part 1 of a 2-part segment, so we get to hear more in the next episode about the story of Farscape.
Yeah, it's always interesting to get some of that behind-the-scenes detail, and some of the history of stuff just makes it much more rich to be able to feel that way, so I enjoy those articles.
Attention! There are opportunities all around you. Opportunities to help spread the Scaper word around the world. The ScapeCast Beacon, a call to all Scapers to mobilize. It's almost Burbank time again, so Scapers who have volunteered to create the official con books for our favorite stars are looking for your help to contribute messages, photos, and what have you. Stop by their forum threads to offer your support to your favorite celebrities. Distant Universe, a fan-run text-based Farscape role-playing game, needs your help. They're looking for Scapers interested in playing characters in their fictional universe. All you need is your internet connection and a web browser to sign up and play in this free online game. Check our show notes for more information. This has been the ScapeCast Beacon, a call to all Scapers to mobilize.
Now, Lindy, I've seen the phrase in some of the online discussion forums and there in the Beacon talking about the con book. What is a con book? That's not something I'm really familiar with.
Well, Kevin, that is an excellent question. A con book is basically a giant love letter to a favorite actor or celebrity. So basically, what happens is, on the forums, like at Frelmy Dead, is that somebody says they're going to put together a convention book or a con book for someone, such as like Gigi Edgley. And then she'll ask for contributions, and people write love letters and emails, and some of them draw things, and then they send them to the person who's collecting them and making them into a big scrapbook. And then those books are presented to that person as a love letter, as their souvenir for the year. It's a really fun thing to do, and if you've never contributed to one and you're coming to the Burbank Farscape Convention, you really should consider checking around either at Terra Firma or at Frelmy Dead to see what con books are being put together, so you can participate in that.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Hi, Scapers. This is the Beacon guy. I'm so lonely. When I walk up to people at the ScapeCast studios, they seem to walk the other direction. I go like, "Attention!" and they run away. Sometimes they scream first. I'm not sure why. But would you like to be my friend? If you do, you can contact me, and I suppose the other ScapeCast people, several ways. You can send us an email at feedback@scapecast.org, drop by our forums at scapecast.org, send us a voice recording or click the Talk to Us Now button on our website, or you can call our voicemail line at area code 206-350-MOYA. That's area code 206-350-6692. Please call soon. I really need a friend.
Hey, wait, I got a couple of questions. Couple of 1,000 more questions.
Question of the week.
This week's question was, what Farscape character is most like you, and why?
Team 22 writes, I'd say I'm most like John. I make plans that never work out the way I want them to, and bad luck follows me like a puppy. But when nothing's going right, I somehow manage to survive and make the best of a bad situation.
Nookie Monster here. I don't know what this Farscape thing is, but Ema told me about the characters on their show. I would say that I am most like Rigel. Rigel can never get enough food. I know what that is like because I can never get enough Lumas. Goodbye.
Hi, this is Kim from the ScapeCast, and the Farscape character I most like would probably be Jelena from PK Tech Girl. I work in IT, meaning I work on computers. I would love to have the gun, wear the leather pants, kick ass and get the hot guy. But no, I'm probably the person stuck fixing stuff on the Aurora chair. But hey, a girl's gotta have a job, right?
Question of the week.
Well, Kevin, this was the question that I asked instead of Kurt. And I guess it was pretty tough, huh?
Well, let's just say we didn't get deluged with replies.
Yeah, I got that. But I have an answer. I had to think about it a while. I would have to say that for me, I can't say that there's a character that I'm most like, but I relate the most to John in Season 1. And that's actually what got me hooked on Farscape, is because when you look at him and how he behaves, you go, well, if I were in his position, I'd be doing the same thing. And I just really relate to him, and I think that's one of the things that attract people to Farscape. But after Season 1, I could never be John. I'd be dead. But the character who I would like to be, and probably like in a costume contest one day, if I ever get into that, would be Noranti. Because I think she's pretty mysterious. I like her. So what about you, Kevin?
Well, we all
Which 12 characters are you like?
Yeah, we all know how well I don't do with these creative questions. I'm much better with the fact-based ones. But I suppose if I'd intermix a little of certainly John, when many of us have touched on in terms of the lost look in the first season and all, that certainly could be me doing that. I wouldn't say I'm the part of the future John as far as how that goes, and I'm certainly not going to identify myself with any of the females. I'm just not crossing that line. So that does keep my choices kind of limited.
Chicken.
Yeah. Maybe I can go a little Stark. I certainly can be a little crazy from time to time, my side, your side kind of thing. So maybe I'll overlap the two of them a bit and create a third identity, I guess, for me. So, Lindy, what's up for next week?
Yes. Our next episode's question is, who is the sexiest character in Farscape?
Oh, pick me. I know. I already know this one.
Well, that's just your opinion, Kevin. And you listeners, if you want to find out what Kevin has to say, listen to episode Lucky 13.
Now, also, we should mention on that question, you don't have to limit yourself to just the main characters.
Were we going to say that?
We just did.
Okay. It could be anybody. Because there's certain members of our ScapeCast crew who have interesting fascinations with some guests on Farscape.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see whether or not they're willing to step up and put those in recordings for the next show. But it's made for some interesting discussions here on the crew forum, I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, I'm Terry from Edmonton, Alberta, and Farscape to me is great sci-fi, hilarious comedy, and a bunch of great fans.
Hey, welcome back. Earlier, I asked you to name the two actors who played both major recurring roles on Farscape and appeared in the Matrix series of movies. The answer is Paul Goddard, who played Agent Brown in the first movie.
If indeed the Insider has failed, they'll sever the connection as soon as possible.
And David Franklin, who played a restaurant maitre d' in the second movie. Did you know the answer? Well, even if you did, I have a special ScapeCast Trivia Extra Credit question for you. Do you remember the Trial Talk segment in the last episode in which Ema and her friends called into the ScapeCast to complain about us defining poor little Ema's name? If not, here's a quick rundown of the folks who called.
My name is Ema, and I am calling to complain about a recent episode of Trial Talk.
Mr. Hoople here.
This is Orville the Slightly Annoyed. Hello, ScapeCast. Nookie Monster here.
This is Dr. Ernestine Spam here.
Now, my bonus question for you is this. Can you identify the ScapeCast actor who voiced each character? For a hint, be sure to check the credits at the end of the last episode, since we always list the names of the folks who voice segments of the show. I'll reveal the answer next week, but if you'd like to guess before then, send the ScapeCast a message or drop us a voicemail or other recorded guess. Those who get them all right will get a mention on the next show. For the ScapeCast, I'm Brent Barrett.
The ScapeCast is here every other week, and we're ready to talk to whomever would like to chat. So, Mr. Brian Henson, we would love to talk to you anytime about anything, including your secret plans for more Farscape. And you can always contact us at thescapecast.org. Also, Mr. Browder, Ms. Black, and any of our other actors on Farscape, call us, write us, email us. We'll pull up a virtual comfy chair for you, and we can talk about whatever's on your mind. Call us. Love to chat.
This episode of the ScapeCast is brought to you by the word DRAD.
And now we'd like to give our thanks to Jersey Girl on her great article about Stark, and what a wonderful addition Stark is to Moya's crew.
Yeah, the interview, too, was really great and gave us some great insight on, what's happening with Stolen Life and some of the other work that Claudia is doing.
And we really want to thank the director for her time with you on that.
It's also going to be great, looking forward, Lindy, to hear part 2 of the Aliens Muppets article in that series and some more details.
Oh, my. And, I went and snuck another peek in the writer's room, and I know that the Hitchhiker's Guide was a 3-part segment, but it's going past that. And I think I saw more segments coming up with a Hitchhiker's Guide.
And folks, don't forget to try to identify the Trek Talk voices for that trivia contest that we talked about earlier.
It's pretty hard, but I think you might be able to figure out who a couple of them are.
Shh! Don't go giving it away. Seen some really
Who
interesting.
Who was that? Somebody broke in.
Seen some interesting responses to who is who. So yeah, keep them coming in, folks. It's certainly fun to read those.
We also want to let you know that the Burbank Convention is coming up soon. And we have some pretty exciting news about what the ScapeCast is going to be doing there. We actually are going to be having a live podcast during the convention. Not only that, but you'll get to meet a lot of the ScapeCast crew during the convention and at the live podcast.
Yeah, that sounds very exciting. I'm actually myself very excited to see we're going to get a chance to do that with several crew members there. I'm a little disappointed because I don't think I'm going to be able to get out there myself to be able to have the funds and all, but that sounds very exciting, and it's great that Creation is going to give us an opportunity to do that.
Well, we sure will miss you, Kevin.
So thanks again for joining us, everyone, as we continue our journey. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Lindy. Now it's time to disable your comms and find new wonders. Until next time.
This is John Crichton. Somewhere in the universe.
You've been listening to the ScapeCast, Episode 12, produced September 2006. Writers for this episode were Kevin Batchelder, Lindy Ray, Nicola Wood, Brent Barrett, Julie Marino, Kurt Armbruster, and Tricia Ennis. This episode featured voice performances by
Kevin Batchelder,
Lindy Ray,
Sammy Moore, Kimberly Thompson,
Brent Barrett,
Ken Chapina,
Hank Schiffman,
Kurt Armbruster.
So, Kevin,
yes.
How was Dragon? Sorry, click. So, Kevin.
Yes, Lindy?
How was Dragon?
Now who needs the drink?
For the entire ScapeCast crew, I'm Brent Barrett. Thank you for listening, and fly safe.